He's been covering sports in Utah for more than a decade. The last few years on the Utah Jazz beat at the Trib. You can read his work now on The Athletic and follow him on Twitter at @TJones on the NBA. Tony Jones is our guest tonight.
Thanks for having me.
We go all the way back to your prep beat days.
Way back.
It's been a long time.
The Alta Bingham days.
Yes, and it's been cool to see you get to the point where you are now. It's also cool to see somebody from the East Coast make Utah their home.
Yes.
Why do you love it here?
I love it because it's such an underrated sports market in terms of you have the Jazz, you have Utah, you have BYU, you have RSL. The fans are very vociferous and they're very knowledgeable. And I love it because, you know, it's a great place to raise a family, and I'm raising a family, and so it's definitely been a good spot to call home.
We even have some family over here making faces at you, so always supporting.
Yes, yes, these are these haters that we talked about
yes.
off camera. So
they're even in our own family. Well, let's dig into the Jazz here. Wow, times can change pretty quick. 6-game winning streak. You kind of saw this coming, though. You've been telling fans, be patient.
Just relax.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Don't jump off a building. And here we are. It kind of is okay, and what you've been talking about is coming true.
Well, I think, I've said it, a lot, that schedule has been, it's been very non-conducive to playing good basketball because, number one, the strength of the schedule, and number two, the amount of road games, and triple that with, the lack of days of rest in between. So now the schedule's lightened up in terms of the schedule strength. You're getting more home games, and you're getting more days off in between to practice and rest and prepare. So, that hasn't been all it has been. I mean, the defense has really improved. The Jazz have fixed some things there, and they've fixed some things in some other spots. But, when you have a schedule that's conducive to playing good basketball, if you're a good basketball team and the Jazz are a good basketball team, you're probably going to play good basketball.
So Donovan Mitchell seems to have flipped a switch. I know you've probably had some conversations with him. What's changed in the last 8 to 10 games with Donovan Mitchell?
Well, his reads off the pick and roll have gotten demonstratively better. He had kind of tunnel vision in the first 2 months of the season, and teams knew that. So they knew that if he was coming downhill off the pick and roll, he's probably going to shoot the basketball. And when you know that a guy is going to do one thing and you have to defend against one thing, that guy becomes easy to defend. And that's why you saw Donovan Mitchell's numbers in terms of his shooting numbers dip so drastically. But in the last month, he's mixed it up. He's coming downhill on one possession, he's putting up a floater. He's coming downhill on another possession, he's going straight to the basket. Or he's finding shooters in the corner. Or, gasp, he's actually throwing lobs to Rudy Gobert, because that's a running joke inside the Jazz locker room. Rudy will always go up to Donovan. He goes up to Donovan every day. Why aren't you throwing me lobs? Why aren't you throwing me lobs? I'm open. You know how Rudy is.
Yeah.
Rudy's always open in his mind. So, and you saw it last night against Cleveland Cavaliers. He actually threw Rudy a couple of lobs. So, he's mixing it up. He's making the right reads. He's got a much better sense of when to shoot and when to pass right now. So
transitioning now into Rudy Gobert, as you mentioned, he's just been consistent all year. Hasn't been injured. That's been huge for him. His play's been awesome.
You better knock on wood.
Did I just screw something up for the Jazz?
You better knock on wood.
So sorry, but he's been awesome. So why has he been so dominant this year? And he seems like even really lately, I mean, he's doing stuff that only Karl Malone has done in his Jazz jersey. He's been incredible.
Well, he's a guy right now. I mean, I'd say that he's one of the 2 best centers in the NBA. I know Nikola Jokic is having a great season in Denver, but in my mind, to me, the 2 best centers in the league are Rudy and Joel Embiid, and you could put those two, and you could flip it in terms of what the order is or whatever. I won't argue with you on that, but I think that those 2 guys are the 2 best centers in the league. And he's become a two-way star. Obviously, the defense has always been there, and he's even taken that up to a kind of career level in the last month. But offensively, this is the best that we've seen Rudy offensively. He's, in terms of the gravity that he commands rolling down the lane, his hands have gotten a lot better. He makes traffic catches a lot more frequently than he used to earlier in his career. He's one of the best finishers in the league. He's one of the best offensive rebounders in the league. He's an underrated passer, so you can run a lot of your offense through him, and Quinn Snyder does up in that high post area a lot. And one of the other things that he's doing, he's actually finally posting up, using his base as a strength, and actually going up strong and scoring in post-up situations. So he's a guy that feeds off of perceived disrespect.
Yes.
And he gets a lot of that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who I don't think recognize how good he is, and I think that he feeds off of that. And you've seen that in the last month or the last 6 weeks, how good he's been.
Should he be an all-star?
Yes.
Is he going to be an all-star?
It's
going to be hard, isn't it?
Very debatable.
The West is just so full of great players.
The West is full of great players. I think he should be. But, if Luka Doncic makes the all-star team, that takes us away a spot from somebody. And it's probably going to take us away a spot from Rudy. Now, that being said, if the Jazz continue on this run and, by February 1st, they're potentially in the top 5 of the Western Conference or top 6, you can make a case that the coaches and the players could open something up for him.
Well, you mentioned the respect he doesn't get sometimes. I think the coaches in the league know exactly who he is, so that should definitely help his cause.
Absolutely.
All right, another big date, February 7th, trade deadline.
Trade deadline.
It's like Christmas for Tony Jones, right? Or not.
Opposite of Christmas. Same effect, opposite.
Okay, so it's going to be a crazy day, and I wanted to get your thoughts on the Jazz. I mean, Dennis has been aggressive on trade deadlines in the past, and it seems like even now there's a chance to be a buyer. Do you expect the Jazz to be very aggressive? Obviously, they don't have any control over whether the deal gets done, but
I absolutely expect them to be aggressive in listening to what the marketplace says. I think it's a balancing act for the Jazz right now, because you can make a case that they should be aggressive on the market, but they also don't want that aggression to take them out of the free agent market, because they absolutely want to be aggressive on the free agent market this summer. So it could be an either-or thing, and I don't think that they want to close any doors for themselves. So I think what you're going to see, you're going to see them listen to what the marketplace says. And if there's something that makes sense, and it makes sense in terms of this will make our team better, and it's a no-brainer, I think that they wouldn't hesitate to do something. But I think you're seeing what you've seen in the last month is how much better the Kyle Korver trade has made the Jazz, specifically offensively, because it's opened up so many driving lanes for Donovan Mitchell. It's taken a lot of pressure off of Joe Ingles, because Joe Ingles is now not the only shooter on the team, and it's helped the spacing of the offense pretty immeasurably. So I think that the Jazz have really made a move that's helped them. But in making that move, obviously they've created a trade exception for themselves that they could use at trade deadline time. So I think it's going to all depend on what's available, who's available, and what kind of sense does it make for the Jazz, and what are the ramifications financially long term.
Expiring contracts, they've got a lot of flexibility.
A lot of flexibility.
And they could get ahead of the game, kind of like what Oklahoma City did with Paul George, and go out and get maybe that guy that they like. So we'll see. I kind of feel the same way. I think like they could be very aggressive at the trade deadline. So, Tony, thanks so much. Hey, check out his article in The Athletic. He just wrote about that Jazz defense that's killing it right now. Trust me, it's worth the cost to sign up for The Athletic. Tony, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we'll see how the Jazz do this week. 5 straight games against division opponents. It's a big week.
It's a big week. You got Portland, you got Denver, you got Minnesota, you got Minnesota again, then you have Portland again.
That Denver game's going to be fun.
Yes, yes.
Awesome.
Portland and Denver will be fun.
Yes.